Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Inept General with some more Total War Warhammer news, Bretonnia faction update. Now, earlier on today, guys, there was a stream from Creative Assembly about Bretonnia, and Bretonnia specifically, the faction led by King Louis Leoncoeur, and not the faction led by the Fey Enchantress or Alberic de Bordelot. Now, what that video essentially covered was a lot of the campaign functionality. So I'm going to use this opportunity to just go through some of the stuff they covered in that stream and really break it down for you guys. I covered earlier today just kind of a reaction thing immediately following the news that the Green Knight is a confirmed hero. So there are legendary heroes in the game. But to see a bit more information on that, do try and dig out my announcement video for that news, which will pop up on the right hand corner at the moment. But let's get into some of the more campaign orientated stuff we found out today. So firstly, we found it was obviously the faction of Louis Leoncoeur, and he is running Bretonnia out of Couronne in the north of the Bretonnian kingdoms. He has King of Bretonnia, Power Melee Fighter, Lion Shield, and he starts with the Knightly Vows, which I missed the last time we did an update video, but I'll cover in this video. Campaign Movement Rage 10, Aura Size plus 25% for all lords when attacking. And he starts up there in the north, as you can see, with a damsel, I think a Law of Heavens damsel. And the damsels have been confirmed as having Law of Heavens, Law of Beasts, and Law of Life. And let's look at how things kick off on the campaign for Bretonnia diplomatically. Now, you're automatically friends with Bordelot, Carcassonne, and Artois, and Lyonnaise, and all really the other Bretonnian factions. Now, what this means is essentially off the bat, you can get non-aggression pacts with all of these guys. And the game itself actually punishes you for going to war with any other Bretonnian faction. So what you're really looking to do is rush some technologies that help diplomatic relations build up and try to confederate as quickly as possible. But we'll go into how it punishes you for going to war with other Bretonnian factions in just a little bit. But just to give you guys a heads up, keep that in the back of your mind as we continue on the video. So as well as being in good relations with all of the other Bretonnian factions, you're also at war with several other factions. You're at war with Marienburg, you're at war with the Skull Smashers, and you're at war with the Scaling in the north. Now, to look at the chivalric system, I've mentioned it in a previous video, but I'm going to go into it in a little bit more detail today. So the chivalry system is essentially the Bretonnian equivalent of Amber for the Wood Elves. You essentially need to build it up, and once you reach a certain level, that's when you meet your campaign goals. That's when you end the campaign. So I believe the level to end the campaign is 1,000 chivalric points, let's just call them. Now, the first segment you get here is a segment from 0 to 199 chivalric points, and when you're in that area, you get the +2 leadership buff. Now, as you progress through these stages, there's 5 segments in all. The first segment you start in, most of the lords you have in terms of legendary lords of the faction leaders have a little bit to start. So you start with 10 as Louis Leoncoeur, and you build up from there. Once you go into section 2, you unlock one of the opportunities to summon the Green Knight, which would mean in total there's 4 opportunities in the whole of the campaign to summon the Green Knight, and he'll stick around for 15 turns. I've mentioned that in a couple of my other videos, but I thought I'd clarify. I think I erroneously said in my last video you can summon him 5 times because there are 5 segments, but because you start in segment 1, you only progress through 4 other segments, thus 4 other times you can summon the Green Knight. Now, the other thing you'll notice on this screen is the counter on the right-hand side in the center. I'll just point it out with the mouse here. This 8 out of 10, I've mentioned that before. That's the score for peasants, and if you go above that 10 level, you start to become increasingly more disadvantaged or debuffed in terms of your economic abilities. So you'll start to have costs go up on your knights, or costs go up on certain units that essentially hit your economy if you start using too many peasants for your armies. And the way to get more peasants isn't through buildings, it's either through tech or through taking over other territories. From what I understood of the stream today, that's what they said was the only way to get more peasants. So that's the way you get those. You just have to expand, or you have to do it through technology. Now here we have the second level of chivalry, which is honorable, 200 to essentially 400 chivalric points. You may call the Green Knight at this point when you get your first one, unit experience +1, leadership +4. Next stage, 400 to 600. Again, you get another opportunity to call the Green Knight, leadership +6, Lord Recruit rank +1, unit experience +2. 600 to 800. Another opportunity to call the Green Knight, leadership 8, negative vampiric corruption, Lord Recruit rank +3, unit experience +3 as well. And then the final stage, you may call the Green Knight one more time, you get reduction in vampiric corruption and chaos corruption, Lord Recruit rank +5, unit experience +4, and you get that 100 experience per turn, all forces, which is a huge buff, the kind I think Vlad has for the vampire camps. So that's essentially the chivalric system. If you're curious as to what causes it, because what they described in the stream today was that different lords will have different chivalric values. So at the moment, the only lord on the map is Luan Leoncoeur, and he himself has a +10. So if you hover above the knight icon at the end of the chivalry meter in the top there, I'll just point it out with my mouse here, that will later on just point out all the pluses and minuses to your chivalry score. So you'll get some lords who you maybe have to get to raise a province and they'll lose chivalry, and that will sort of have a negative impact on your overall chivalry score. But as I said, that in itself is going to show you exactly where that score is coming from and what you maybe have to do to increase it. So that's a handy little tooltip there for you. Next, we have one of the army traits for the Bretonnian armies. If you win enough victories in a row, you get the Blessing of the Lady for your entire army. Now, if you're not aware what the Blessing of the Lady is, it's essentially a 20% physical resistance buff. Now, you'll have some elite units, like the Grail Knights, who automatically have it anyway, so it doesn't matter whether the whole army buff has it. It won't double up, I don't believe, on them. It'll just be the units that don't normally have it, like the Peasants, like some of the other units like that. So that could be a potentially huge thing to get for your army. You do, however, you keep that. It's not a turn limit, the Blessing of the Lady. It's not like an event turn limit. You keep it as long as you keep winning. So if you lose or you retreat, you lose the Blessing of the Lady. So if you take a tactical retreat, Blessing of the Lady gone. You have to just keep winning. Even if you siege a town and then decide to change your mind and sort of retreat back from sieging the town, that will lose you the Blessing of the Lady as well. So really you just have to make sure that once you have that blessing, you're making the most of it and continuing to fight at any given opportunity. Now, another cool trait with the chivalry stuff is if you do eventually get a character who takes on traits that like, sort of give him a negative chivalry score, or you do actions that give you a negative chivalry score, or in fact you just get some of the bad traits that you get in the game, like, I don't know, like drunk or whatever, none of them are springing to mind, but the ones that negatively impact your character, what you can do, and this is something we did not know before, or maybe we did and I just didn't see it on the tooltips and didn't register it, is that you can go to, you can put that lord into All Hero and have him garrison a town with a Grail Shrine or a Grail Chapel or any of the Grail building structures, and they'll get a chance every turn that passes to have a negative character trait removed from their character card, as it were. So if you have a character, for example, that's -10 economic income, because he has some trait that does that for him, and you want to get rid of that, you just have to keep him in the town of a Grail Shrine. If you don't move him out of it, it's considered him going to the shrine and praying, and that trait might go away. You get a chance, and that chance goes up increasingly. For the lowest level of the buildings, you get the 10% chance. As you go up, you see 20%. I'm not sure what the top tier one is. I guess maybe 30%. But that's a really cool mechanic, and bringing the idea of prayer into the gameplay of Total War Warhammer is fantastic. It's something that featured on the tabletop as well, and I think it's a really clever little thing that I hadn't noticed before, but they brought it up in the stream today, and is a cool little mechanic that's really very lore-fitting, shall we say. In terms of some of the other buildings here, on the far right, you have pottery, wine, the taverns, like the other things, are in control, take care of sort of public order. But for Bretonnia, that's just called control. And as you move up there, you get increasing control. And it looks like the top one will actually cost you, excuse me, cost you 20 chivalric points. And I suppose that's because you don't want your knights getting all drunk and pissed up every night, so it will have an impact on you there. So that's quite funny. I like that. It's a nice little touch. In Cologne, you have the tournament ground of Cologne, of course. You have the sort of barracks for foot soldiers. The farms are really where you make a lot of income for the Bretonnian faction, and you get windmills, which further increase that income as well. So that's an interesting sort of double whammy. You maybe want to build both if you ever get the opportunity. So moving on, you also have something that's new to Bretonnia, is the idea of these legendary buildings. Now, these are faction specific. So Louan-Lioncoeur has his legendary building, the Fey Enchantress has hers, and Alberic de Bordelot has his. Now, whether you can only build them in your given capital, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Or whether you can build that in any given town, provided you haven't built it before. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's an interesting new aspect, and they've added an extra icon onto the end of the building chains for these legendary buildings that each legendary lord of Bretonnia has. Louans gives him plus 50 chivalry, plus 2 for paladins, as you can see on the left-hand side, plus 10% charge bonus for all cavalry units, all forces, vigor loss reduction for cavalry units, all forces, and plus 5 grave for the Grail Vow unit. So I think that'll be the Grail Knights and the Grail Guard. So that's really cool. That's a nice little thing. Always like the unique buildings. It adds a nice little element to the game. We also got a look at the provincial aspects of the town, and because you start with a province, it seems that you get a growth option that's really just restricted to growth. It's not like the Empire where it's growth and trade. You get sort of control options. There are a number of different options, but unfortunately I didn't grab any screen fix of them. They're just popping into my head now that I remember seeing them in the stream. But do check out the stream itself. I'll leave a link in the description. I do recommend it, but I'm just trying to sort of summarize some of the stuff that popped up in the stream for you guys right here. Now, moving on, guys, this is a little bit of a spoiler, so skip ahead 20 seconds immediately now if you don't want to know. But this event seems to pop up for Louan-Lioncoeur. I don't know if it will pop up for every faction, but essentially it's a 20-turn minus 20 public order or control debuff that happens to you at the beginning of this campaign, which essentially means you'll get a number of rebellions, but while this event is going on, all those rebellions are greenskin rebellions. They're not peasant rebellion, so you won't be fighting other Bretonnian armies, which is a really interesting mechanic. I really like it. And apparently, from what I could gather from the chat, although we weren't necessarily shown this aspect, if you take the Orc settlement that's up here near Cologne, this event will stop. At least that's kind of what I got from them suggesting it. I'm not, because we've never really seen that mechanic before, and it doesn't necessarily say it here in the initial sort of screen that pops up. I wasn't really 100% sure if I understood that correctly, but the impression I got was that if you take the Orc settlement in the north of Bretonnia, then this event will end early. But again, you might just want to farm the event and just have the little rebellions popping up to get your guys some experience. But they said that was maybe an option, so I look forward to testing that out and seeing if it's a real thing, because it opens up some very interesting campaign possibilities, not just for Bretonnia, but for other factions as well. Now here we have the tech tree, and we got sort of a full rundown of the tech tree today. You start with a chivalric code, plus 5 chivalry, plus 5 for lords, plus 5 for lord's armor, and 5 for lord's leadership. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, on the sort of bottom left, you have all the heraldry research trees. Now, essentially, they give you a buff in diplomacy with other provinces of Bretonnia. So as you see here, the heraldry of Artois, plus 10 is chivalry, plus 100 with the faction of Artois. So the idea is essentially, once you really research one of these, provided you haven't gone to war with anyone, you'll be able to confederate with them really fairly quickly. And you need to research these technologies in order to confederate with them. That's something to bear in mind. So if you find yourself in a campaign wondering why there's no confederation options showing up, it's maybe because you haven't researched that province. So you have to research all the different provinces in order to confederate with them at all. And the same for each of these. 100 for the faction, 10 for chivalry, 100 for the faction, 10 for chivalry, same. And then you get the unification of Bretonnia, which is when you start to look outwards. So 20 chivalry, plus 50 with the dwarves, plus 50 with the empire, just to secure those classic alliances that you may have in the old world. Now, in terms of the decrees, these are slightly different. These are geared towards fighting enemies and improving the amount of chivalry you get for each victory against these enemies, and for some of them, providing an actual buff against fighting those enemies to begin with. So the greenskin one, +2 chivalry for every victory against greenskins, and -5 and the -50 diplomatic relations. Now, this is quite an interesting aspect, because essentially what it means is if you start to research some of these, you'll essentially be at perpetual war with these factions, irregardless. So if you research the green tide decree, and then you move down and upgrade that to the Grey Mountain Watch, which gives you the +10 weapon strength bonus against all greenskins, which is a huge bonus, and +10 leadership in subterranean insect battles, that essentially gives you a stacked I think -100 versus with relations with the greenskins. So they will essentially never be at peace with you after you research these technologies. They will just be at perpetual war with you. And the same goes for the Winter of Woes, which is the Norscan tribe sort of buffer chivalry. And a really interesting thing about these is also they nullify attrition in the habitats of these tribes. So I'm just going to go back quickly to the greenskin one. You see immunity to barren wasteland attrition, so you won't take attrition from the wastelands. And the Winter of Woes decree, immunity from snow attrition. So once you research this, you can just send armies up to Norsca and just destroy the place, which would be very handy and a great way to build up experience and a good way to get rid of them early, because you are so close as Bretonnia. Get rid of them early before Archaon shows up. And then for the Norsca as well, they have the +5 melee attack, +10 defense. Now, these two factions, it's interesting that they almost encourage you to fight greenskins and Norsca the most, because they're the only ones with kind of the upgraded vendetta tech against these races. The others, so if we move up to the top left, it's a bit hidden by the faces there, but the Death's Grip decree is against undead, and that only has the 1 level, if you see what I mean, and -25 casualties from attrition against vampiric corruption. The Ruinous Powers, so just chaos itself, plus, oh, that's interesting, the bonus versus large when fighting chaos, all forces, aura size +50% when fighting chaos, and -50% attrition from chaos corruption. The Fortress Edge is the 10 missile resistance when fighting Wood Elves. But again, with Wood Elves, you might actually not want to research this one, because if you don't want to be in a state of recurring war with the Wood Elves, this would be a bad option for you. Also, something they mentioned in the stream is that they fiddled with the Wood Elf AI, and the Wood Elves won't be as aggressive as they have been in the previous setup of the game. So that's a good bit of news. Maybe don't need the Wood Elf defensive mod anymore. The Wood Elves will be much more defensive in their playstyle than they have been previously, just kind of storming across the entire world in some people's campaigns. The Safer Woods one, I must have missed there, but the Safer Woods one is essentially the Beastman equivalent, so that would give you boosts against the Beastman. Economic investment, +4 growth, +3% for income from settlements. The Arms Houses, which is essentially, I think, poor houses, is +5 peasant mob units, +10 growth all provinces, +2 peasant mob. Got to have that one. Got to have the experienced peasant mobs, guys. Don't want rookie peasant mobs wandering about. Charity, +20 chivalry, +2 control or public order. Income from trade, so these two are trade, improved trade vessels, and harbor master bribes. Both increase trade and income from ports. Income from farms, -5% upkeep from infantry units. That's a potentially very good one. Construction, -5%. Income from farms, 2%. Get an extra peasant unit. So water pumps is the tech that gets more out of your provinces in terms of being able to recruit different peasants. Construction, -2% from all buildings. Construction, -1. Construction time, -1 for province, capital stroke settlement buildings. That's pretty cool. Income from industry, +10%. So the weaving buildings that you get for the Empire, you get them from Bretonnia as well. So I imagine that's what that would be. And income from industry, research rate, income from industry, and income from industry. So if you're going for the seamstress route rather than the farming route, take these ones. Otherwise, take the improved agricultural tools if you're using farms as your primary source of income. Now, you also get the two lords. You get just a kind of knight lord, and you get the prophetesses, and you get sort of different bonuses for them as you do in every campaign. As you see here, here's just an example one I picked out, the +10 chivalry, +8 bonus versus large, and there'll be very different ones, I'm sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing the variety we get in terms of Bretonnia that way. King Louis-Lioncoeur himself, +10 chivalry, which is that 10 I showed you earlier that he starts out with. Blessing of the Lady, which is the 20% physical resistance. One thing he doesn't seem to have that he really should have, because Louis-Lioncoeur is a Grail Knight, is he doesn't have that infinite vigor thing that the Grail Knights do. So that's a bit of a bummer. But you know, I think he's looking like he might be a complete powerhouse. So that might have just made him completely OP if he didn't have vigor either. And from the impression I got just watching the stream, guys, let me know if you got the same impression. There seemed to be a lot more like traits popping a lot quicker. Maybe that's just because he was farming orcs and goblins for a good while there in the stream. But it seemed like maybe they've increased the amount of traits you can maybe get. That's just an impression I got. That's not something they mentioned, but just kind of the impression I got. It'd be interesting to see. Now looking at Louis-Lioncoeur's upgrade tree himself, he has the Knight's Vows that we mentioned earlier. Now, he comes with all of these to begin with, but other lords might not have them. And we actually heard an interesting anecdote from the guys on the stream that one of them had their legendary lord assassinated during a Bretonnia campaign, and he lost all of these vows, which just wrecked his economy. So that's something to watch out for, guys, and maybe something to get at least your Knight Lords equipped with real early on. So let's see what they do. There's the Knight's Vow, which is the first one on that tree, which reduces the cost of Knights Errant, Knights of the Realm, and Pegasus Knights. Questing Vow, which is for Questing Knights. And the Grail Vow, which is for the Grail Knights, Grail Guardians, Royal Pegasus Knights, and Royal Hippogriff Knights. And that just vastly reduces the upkeep of them. So if you get Louis assassinated, your upkeep might sort of just rocket overnight, depending on what's in his army at any given time. Now, going up to the top row of his things, his unique item is the Sword of Couronne, which is melee attack +6, upkeep -5% for all units, recruitment -10%, income from ports 10, and the Sword of Couronne ability, which is -30 armor, -6 melee defense for the enemy. That is quite the debuff he can do on them. 39 seconds. Ooh, he could wreck. He's got access to a Pegasus at rank 9, access to a Bearquis or Bequis, or however you want to say it. And at 15, Crown of Bretonnia, +5 leadership for the entire army. The Lady's Companion replenishes hit points. That gives him his regen. Yes, that gives him his regen. Available at rank 6. Casualty replenishment rate for knights, 8%. Army of the King, available at rank 10. Beloved Sons, 8 melee attack, 12 melee damage, 8% charge, immune psychology. And is that just a buff for himself or a buff around him? Allies in range. Yeah, it's a buff around. Oh, it's map wide. So map wide buff for anyone in the army. That is really good. Get that at level 12, guys. The Lady's Mantle, which is the 10% missile resistance we've seen with other lords. And the Lion's Shield, which is 44% missile resistance, 44% magic resistance, I think just on himself. So it just allows him to fly around a bit, take some hits. The sort of combat thing is just the same. You've seen all those things before, so I skipped the combat thing there. We don't really show it either, but you've seen Blade Master, Devastating Charge, Full Plate Armor. You guys just have to look on your copies of the game to find out what they do. Now, looking on Inspiring Presence, you guys know that one as well already. And then, so just moving on to Peasant's Duty is just sort of buffing peasant missile units. Lowborn Militia, buffing the leadership of your peasant melee infantry. Basic infantry, basic training, vigor loss reduction. Charge bonuses for cavalry. Virtue of Empathy, aura size +10. Lion-hearted, -15% cooldown to rally and stand your ground. Glorfinal's Progeny, which is weapon strength +5 for cavalry units. And that, I think that's only at level 1 as well, so that would probably go to level 15, I'm guessing. And Engines of War, I didn't get them to hover over it, but I imagine that's just a buff to trebuchets, as one might imagine. And the one at the end of the row there, which you might not be able to see, is Stand Your Ground, and we've seen that before. Route Marcher, we know, 10% campaign. Justicar is Public Order, or Control, as we say for Bretonnia. Recruitment, Bonded Service, we've seen that. 10th share, income bonus. Vampiric Reduction, devoted to the goddess. Lightning Strike, you know. Irrepressible Spirit is the wound reduction that we've seen in Lords before. Steward of the Realm, +8 growth. Royal Insignia, recruitment duration, -1 turn for Royal Pegasus, Royal Hippogriff unit. That is potentially useful, but a single turn, it's not earth-shattering, is it? But it's okay for being that far down the tech tree, but it's alright. And that's about it. Let's just go back here. Oh, this one, the one you see second, last one on the right there is Premonition, and I think that's Ambush Chance. And the other one, Bailiff. I'm not sure what that one is. I didn't manage to grab a screenshot of that one when they were going through it. So let's just continue on. And as I mentioned earlier today, the Green Knight is confirmed as a legendary hero, which opens up a lot of possibility for modders and a lot more opportunity for us to see some of the special characters in the Warhammer universe without having to build 20 armies in each faction. So that's very good to see, and I'm very glad they've implemented that. Well, it's not a full implementation because the Green Knight obeys such a special set of rules, but hopefully we'll see legendary heroes pop up a little bit more often now that we know that they're willing to listen to that idea or to implement that idea in itself. Now, they said you can't necessarily equip the Green Knight, but it does look like some of the buttons were equipable, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't work. But the Green Knight comes with his Dolorous Blade, which is his magic item already. He comes fully stacked up. He's level 30. You can maybe see a bit too much of his face in this picture for my liking, but there you go. And yeah, he's looking to be a kick-ass character. He has Blessing of the Lady. He has Vanguard. He causes terror. He has physical resistance. He's just, he could be a complete monster. And particularly early on, if you summon a level 30, essentially a level 30 legendary lord to back up your army against anyone who's probably level 7 or anything, he could be potentially devastating him if you use him at the right time. And here's a picture of him in a custom battle. So these will be the stats he has in online play and in custom battles. We're missing some of the things at the top there, but he's ethereal, he causes terror, he has Vanguard, and you can see his stats there. Leadership armor 40, leadership 100, speed 84, melee attack 54, magical, melee defense 48, weapon strength 430, charge bonus 85. His sword there, the Dolorous Blade, gives him plus 34 melee attack when it's hit. It's on a timer. So I think it's 39 seconds, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure on that one. And it's on the timer. It's minus 34 melee attack. No, plus 34 melee attack and plus 44 melee defense. I think that's what it does. Or weapon strength. Plus 44 weapon strength. That's it. So plus 34 melee attack, plus 44 weapon strength can make him even more devastating when the right opportunity pops up. Now, we also got on Steam a number of the full list of units. We saw a couple of stats for other units that we hadn't seen before today, but it was really just finishing the list off. It was kind of men-at-arms with polearms, men-at-arms with shields, and I'm not really going to bother going through those today, but we did have some things confirmed. The peasant bowmen are going to have fire arrows, and unlike my guess, I thought they were going to have dung arrows that were going to cause poison damage. Instead, we have pox arrows, which cause poison damage, which seems a health hazard to me, much more so than dung arrows, but there you go. We still have Mounted Yeomen, Knights Errant, Knights of the Realm. I'll put a link to the Steam page if you guys haven't seen that already in the description below. Do check it out. It has a bit more information on what we're getting with Bretonnia. Not necessarily a full list of stats, but they're available, and you'll see most of them in that stream if you go and have a look at it if you really want to see what they are. But on the whole, Bretonnia is looking fantastic. They will dominate the skies. I don't think there's anyone who'll take any flying units against Bretonnia in multiplayer anytime soon. It'd be interesting to see how flying squad of Bretonnian hippogriffs sort of rack up against the chaos flying squad of manticores that we see a lot nowadays. But I'll do a lot of testing when Bretonnia comes out for you guys. I'll do a little video on that, put units against units and just getting a bit of a comparison to how they stack up. But other than that, thanks for joining me on this one, guys. We've got a lot of campaign information there. I'm particularly happy about the prayer system. I think that's a cool little addition. The Green Knight being a hero is brilliant. The bowmen, different varieties, I think is a great touch. And I really like the questing knights as well. You saw a little detail on that stream today that they're carrying around all their stuff in like what looks like a very bad backpack, which looks like a pair of drawers. There's not underwear, but literally a set of drawers that you put your clothes in on the back of their poor horses. But thanks again, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. It was just a little bit of a catch-up on what happened on the stream today. I'll try and do another one of these tomorrow when I think we're going through Bordelot. I won't do all the chivalric stuff because you guys will know that already. I'll cover what Alberic's upgrade tree looks like and stuff like that I'm sure they'll show us. So I'm looking forward to going through that with you guys tomorrow when they do their stream. Other than that, have a great day, guys. If you do enjoy this and would like to see more Total Warhammer lore, news, or gameplay, do subscribe to the channel. Do drop a like. It really helps me out. And thanks again, and have a great day.